Hey, it's Danzy, and welcome to today's CWK Coffee Break. Now, we're going to do something a little bit different than what we've done before. I went out and I asked all of you on Twitter and on our Coffee with Kenobi Discord Patreon page what you would like to see done on CWK Coffee Break. I want this to be fresh and exciting, and I think we've got a good thing going here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a series of topics and combine them together for an overall arcing concept of what's going on. For example, a lot of you asked to have me talk about Star Wars Rebels, which seems really appropriate considering that we're getting very close to the end of that amazing Emmy award-winning series. But we're going to start this the way that we started everything on Coffee with Kenobi, and that is combining my love of education and of Star Wars into this unified idea of how to express myself as a Star Wars fan. So we have to start with Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey. Now, you know exactly what I'm talking about, most likely, but do you really know everything that went into making this part of the Star Wars mythology? And really, it is the Star Wars mythology, because the creation of this myth that George Lucas made is almost as powerful as what's inside the story itself. Now, Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey was inspired by Carl Jung, a famous psychiatrist who very much believed in this kind of collective subconsciousness that we all have, where we have different ideas and goals and passions and things that move us that we don't necessarily always express, but they are there. They're connected through the psyche of what makes us humans. Now, through a story, this means we're talking about archetypes. Archetypes are different things that are collective that we see throughout all kinds of stories. And Star Wars is replete with these different archetypes. So in the hero's journey, basically the hero's journey is about the hero who's very naive, sometimes very foolish, leaving where they are used to, and then going out into a world that they've never been to before and coming back much different, changed, transformed, mature, braver, what have you. Obviously, Luke Skywalker fits this perfectly, as does Anakin Skywalker in the prequel trilogy, and definitely Rey in the sequel trilogy. So we'll try to take these characters in somewhat of an order, and we'll just go chronologically. So the very first thing that we look at is the call to adventure. Now, the call to adventure is when the hero, who's very much basking in their known world, often very bored, a lot of malaise has set in, and they feel like there's something different out there, but they're in a rut. You know how that is. You get in this rut in your life, and you want things to change, but you don't really know how that's going to happen. So with the call to adventure, there's some sort of a herald, typically a human or an animal, in the Star Wars case, a droid, that comes in and inspires the hero and tells them about something else that is out there that they have to experience and discover. For Luke, the herald is R2-D2. R2-D2 is who he meets, of course, when Uncle Owen purchases him from the Jawas, not the same people. The same people come later with R2-D2, but that's for a later topic for the hero's journey. And they introduce the idea of something that calls the hero to adventure. For Luke, he activates the holo that shows him Princess Leia. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. Now, for Anakin Skywalker in the prequel trilogy in The Phantom Menace, this is a difficult one because it doesn't really follow the traditional hero's journey. So you could easily take this from the role of Anakin Skywalker. You could look at it from the role of Qui-Gon, which I think is what I'm thinking about doing, or even from Obi-Wan Kenobi. If you take it from the perspective of Qui-Gon, then his herald is when he meets Jar Jar Binks. Because Jar Jar Binks tells him, hey, there's a lot of stuff going on here on Naboo. Possibly. I'm not sure about that. I want to marinate on that a little bit. So I'm going to focus on Luke and then on Rey. But if you have ideas about anybody in the prequel trilogy who follows this, let me know and we'll explore that later. So Rey definitely meets this criteria perfectly, much more so than Anakin, I believe. And her call is from another droid, BB-8. BB-8, of course, brings her, he's her herald, and he brings her into this notion of a call to adventure that she needs to get out of her rut on Jakku. You know, again, the motif is a recurring idea or image that brings things traditionally over and over again up in stories. So the motif in Star Wars is a droid awakens the hero and tells them, hey, you need to get off this desert planet. There's a greater adventure coming to you. For Luke, it's R2. For Rey, it's BB-8. And then they know, hey, there's something that you are supposed to do. Come join me on this adventure. So what happens after that? Well, we're going to talk about that on the next coffee break. So thanks again for joining me on today's coffee break. We will see you next time as we continue to explore the hero's journey.